Primavera recipe, I'll give you a couple of different options of things that you can do based on your dietary preferences. I have, if you're making a traditional version that has, a fair amount of olive oil, then using a regular pan is totally fine. Since I'll be doing a slightly lower oil version, I'll use a non-stick pan. And you can do this, I'll actually explain how you can do this without any oil as well. First thing I'm going to do, this is going to use the saute technique, so I want to get my pan preheated, and then I'll start to add my ingredients once it's warm. So to start, I'm going to use 2 tablespoons of olive oil. So pan's getting warm, I'll add my olive oil. If you want to make an oil-free version, instead of using olive oil, use twice as much of that measurement in broth. So 2 tablespoons of olive oil would be 4 tablespoons of broth as an alternative, and that's the same as 1/4 cup, so you can measure out 1/4 cup. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add the initial oil, and instead of adding any later, which might be done in a typical recipe, I'm going to add broth later. So I get a little bit of richness from that oil, but it's not going to be, adding tons of extra calories or oil to the full dish, which is, a nice happy medium. And just to season, I'm going to add a pinch of salt. You can skip that if you're trying to limit salt. We don't want the garlic to burn, so I'm going to start adding my vegetables after this. So I have just a mixture of vegetables that looked, really bright and fresh at the market. I encourage you to use a rainbow of colors. So I have some red bell peppers, some orange summer squash. I have some yellow summer squash, some orange carrots. Stir those around. If you feel comfortable, you can also toss. And so we talk a lot about when we're sauteing not to overcrowd the pan. For this, it's okay. We're going to end up mixing a lot of things together. So I'm just going to add all the vegetables that I want to add, which is about a total of 4 cups. Might not use quite everything that's sitting out here. I have some green zucchini. I'll put all that in. And then I'm going to add also some red cherry tomatoes, but these will get really soggy if I add them early on, so I'm going to add them closer to the end. If you are adding a pinch of salt here and there, doing it at various stages of the cooking helps to layer the flavors and bring out different flavors. Okay. I'm going to keep the heat up pretty high. I want there still to be a little bit of crispness or bite to the vegetables. And if you see me looking at my watch, I'm gauging the timing. I have my pasta cooking on another burner, so I want to get everything done at the same time. And if you feel like, if you're using a regular pan, I don't recommend using a regular pan if you're doing the oil-free version. I would definitely use nonstick in that case. If you are doing the version with oil, or with at least some, then if you don't want to keep adding some as you go, if you have any sticking or you just want more sauce, then you can keep some of the vegetable broth that you could use in place of some of the oil to add just for some more moisture in the pan. So since the vegetables are sliced thin or julienne, then these are actually just about where I want them. It's a very quick dish to make. Sometimes when you're tossing, you have a few that get away. So I'm going to also add my other ingredients at this point and then set this off to the side. So I have some white beans. This wouldn't be super traditional, but I'm adding them for some extra protein. And also adding that protein and the fiber in those beans, which is also very rich in, will reduce the overall glycemic load of the dish. And I'm going to put the cherry tomatoes in right at the end, as well as the herbs and some lemon. So we'll toss this, and then we'll bring back the pasta, and I'll show you how to tell when it's done. So we are ready to go with just finishing seasoning our pasta primavera. This doesn't have a thick sauce, it's just meant to have a flavor that's lightly coating the pasta, and then plenty of beautiful vegetables in there to bring a lot of color and interest to the eye. Okay, so I'm going to deglaze the pan with a little bit of vegetable stock. And you can add more oil if you want, but that's where the calories really add up, and it's really unnecessary. As long as you have a little bit at the beginning, you get that richness and that nice mouthfeel with the pasta. Okay, so that's warm. Now I'm going to add a little bit of crushed red pepper. Putting a little, people that are going to be eating it may like it a little bit on the mild side. For me, I would probably add about maybe 4 times this amount. I really like a lot of fresh red pepper in that bite. You can taste for salt, but before I do that, it's always nice to add something a little acidic. Just going to give a nice squeeze of lemon. Go ahead and turn the heat off at this point too. I don't think we need to heat it up anymore. I want to keep some of that freshness of that fresh lemon juice. So the acid will help to convey some of the flavors to your tongue and will reduce the amount of salt that you feel like you need to have a flavorful dish. Same thing with adding some fresh herbs. I have just some parsley here. I'm going to add to this. You can also wait and add it to the top. I just want to warm it up a little bit. It makes a little bit of the perfume of those oils come out of the herbs, but I don't want to cook it into the dish. And then I'll add some cherry tomatoes. I'm going to toss it just to lightly heat the tomatoes, but I don't want them to turn into a mushy sauce. So I want them to still have some of that crispness and crunch. So I'll leave them like that. When we add the pasta, we're going to add a little bit of the pasta cooking water, and that will also help to add to the sauciness of the dish. So now we're ready to toss our pasta and our Primavera sauce together. So I have my finished pasta here, just drained. They're not rinsed. There's no oil. You don't want to rinse the pasta because you actually want some of those starches to help the sauce adhere. And similarly, I didn't add any oil because I don't want my sauce to run off. And then I do have this pasta cooking water that we caught under the colander when we were draining the pasta. The purpose of this is in a lot of dishes that you've had with like an oil-based pasta sauce, usually it's not entirely oil. It's oil that's mixed together with a little starchy water. The starch in that water allows for emulsification, or the bringing together of the oil and the water, which wouldn't happen without the starch being in there. So it's not gonna work the same to just run over and say, oh, I drained all the water, I'm gonna grab some out of the tap. You certainly do that if that's what happened, but it will definitely be more of a cohesive sauce if you have that starchy pasta water. And if you're using a high protein pasta or something that is not a traditional pasta, it's really not a big deal. Add a little broth or something, give some flavor. The other component in here in this pasta cooking water was, of course, that salt. So it's going to add a little bit of the salt, which is why I didn't season to taste with the salt before adding that, because then I might end up with an over-salted dish. Okay, so I'm just going to put my vegetable mixture in. And then I'm going to pour a little bit of that pasta cooking water. So what you want to do is just kind of stir quickly. And whatever oil is left in that sauce will start to, again, emulsify with that pasta cooking water. You want to be careful. I'm holding my tongs together when I stir. You can use a spatula as well, but you just don't want to break up that beautiful farfalle pasta that you have. Okay. And then now I'm going to pull out a piece of pasta. Go ahead and taste that. Really, really tasty. I can taste those hints of garlic, hints of each of those vegetables that are in there. I really like lemon. It's just like a hint of lemon. I'm going to give it another little hit of lemon just to bring out that freshness. But if you don't love a really lemony pasta, it would probably be good just the way it was. And then I'm just going to add a pinch of salt. If you feel like you would like it a little richer, have a little more oil, if you went a little light in the cooking, you can always add a little bit at this point and just mix quickly with that pasta cooking water. It will make a nice sauce. The more vegetables to pasta ratio that you use here, the bigger the portion you can have without, feeling too bad about it. So here we have our pasta primavera, really fresh, light, super refreshing, perfect summer dinner. You can have it warm like we have it here, or you can, again, serve it at room temperature. It's great for a family gathering or a barbecue.